there's a palpable sense of chaos swirling around Disney's latest live-action project. If you've been paying attention to the whispers, you've probably heard the rumors: massive budget overruns, unexpected on-set drama, and a backlash big enough to threaten the legacy of one of cinema's most cherished fairy tales. What began as a simple update to a timeless classic, Snow White, quickly became a lightning rod for controversy, dragging in everyone from Disney's CEO Bob Iger to the film's stars Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. Beyond the glowing stage lights and cheerful PR statements, an uneasy tension has been brewing. Some say it's the result of social media missteps, others blame unchecked studio ambition. But there's one thing everyone agrees on: this situation is far from normal for Disney. The meltdown has grown so large that even the board of directors has started pointing fingers, and no one is safe from the fallout. So, how did a film meant to celebrate a beloved story turn into a full-blown scandal that threatens Disney's public image? And is this just a temporary setback, or a sign of something far more alarming within the Magic Kingdom? Let's peel back the curtain and uncover the events leading to the fiasco that insiders call the Snow White 2025 disaster. Not too long ago, Disney confidently announced its next major live-action remake, a reimagining of the classic Snow White. Early buzz was overwhelmingly positive. Film fans were eager to see how technology and modern storytelling would refresh a cornerstone tale that had once defined an entire era of animation. Talk about potential spin-offs, theme park revamps, and merchandising deals spread like wildfire. Even critics, often harsh with remakes, seemed open to the idea, provided Disney handled it with care. But behind the scenes, there were murmurs that not all was well. Anonymous posts popped up on social media, hinting that friction among the cast and crew was derailing production. Insiders claimed that the script went through multiple rewrites, each more expensive than the last. While such difficulties aren't uncommon for blockbuster films, the tension was apparently so thick that even early test screenings felt strained. By the time the first promotional materials trickled out, a few fans had already noticed discrepancies. The overall look and feel seemed off. Some described the visuals as too dreamlike, others found the tone jarring. Even so, the average viewer didn't suspect Disney was heading toward a meltdown of epic proportions. That initial excitement kept everyone hopeful, until some glaring clues began piling up, painting a different picture entirely. No high-profile project escapes a bit of drama, but this one escalated fast. Rumors circulated about clashing personalities at the very top. Rachel Zegler, cast in the iconic role of Snow White, took to social media on several occasions to defend certain modern spins on the fairy tale. Initially, it seemed harmless, an actress proud of her work. Then the tone shifted. Critics claimed her statements were overly combative and disrespectful to the original material. Fans who revered classic Disney films pushed back, arguing that it was possible to update a story without discarding its charm. That was only the beginning. Word got out that Gal Gadot, playing the evil queen, felt uneasy about the direction of the production. Sources alleged she voiced concerns regarding the film's script changes and the atmosphere on set. While she never publicly bashed anyone, insiders whispered that she was unhappy enough to consider stepping away from future Disney collaborations. Adding to this, Bob Iger, Disney's CEO, was rumored to be caught in endless meetings trying to patch up feuds among cast, crew, and executives. As arguments spilled online, fans became polarized. One side applauded a more modern approach, championing Zegler's outspoken stance. The other side accused Disney of straying too far from beloved traditions, fueling a wave of negative sentiment that was about to explode. Ironically, these public disputes boosted curiosity in the film, yet the buzz was overshadowed by an uncomfortable tension that refused to die down. Behind the spectacle of social media drama lay a more concrete crisis: staggering production costs. What started as a moderately sized budget ballooned after Disney approved multiple reshoots. Executives insisted these changes were vital for perfecting the tone, but each additional shoot meant extended crew salaries, inflated marketing expenses, and huge post-production bills. By the time the film reached its final cut, insiders claimed the total cost had hit at least 3 times the initial projection. Naturally, Disney counted on a massive box office return to justify the investment. Early on, the confidence was sky high. After all, live-action remakes of classic Disney films often raked in profits, but test screenings offered a chilling reality check. Viewers left feedback that ranged from visually confusing to lackluster performances. The more the studio tried to polish the film, the more money they sank. Marketing teams scrambled, testing slogans and imagery to spark positive buzz. Nothing seemed to stick. According to insiders, Bob Iger grew increasingly frustrated. He's known as a savvy businessman with a knack for steering Disney to huge successes. Yet Snow White 2025 was turning into a monumental risk. Rumors swirled that he began scapegoating teams inside the company, singling out marketing and creative departments for the film's failures. Some described the atmosphere at Disney's corporate offices as grim. Employees worried about layoffs, or worse, being publicly blamed for a flop that seemed beyond anyone's control. If you scroll through social media today, you'll find countless debates on who or what is most responsible for Snow White 2025 collapsing under scrutiny. Many fans point directly at Rachel Zegler. Her online statements, initially framed as progressive and empowering, devolved into what critics saw as condescension toward the original fairytales legacy. She insisted the story needed a modern overhaul, but her dismissive tone caused an uproar, feeding claims that Disney was undermining cherished material. Zegler's defenders argue she was simply voicing honest opinions in an industry often dominated by safe, PR-friendly language. Still, her approach created major waves, giving birth to a massive campaign of negative press that overshadowed any official publicity. Worse yet, each tweet or interview comment was dissected by fans, turning every word into fresh controversy. As the negative sentiment grew, Disney's PR machine found itself on the defensive. This wasn't the only source of trouble. Behind closed doors, senior Disney figures reportedly confronted Zegler about her public statements. Some felt she was fueling arguments that could have been handled more discreetly. In response, the actress defended her right to speak freely, intensifying the internal standoff. The result? An environment so tense that it seemed every conversation risked igniting a new scandal. Meanwhile, ticket pre-sales, once predicted to skyrocket, stagnated, reflecting a growing unease among fans. And yet, that was only half the story, because as Zegler sparred on social media, another unexpected twist involving her co-star was about to escalate the turmoil even more. Gal Gadot's participation as the evil queen was seen as a brilliant piece of casting. She brought star power and a global fan base, and many assumed she'd put a fresh spin on one of Disney's most iconic villains. At first, her involvement seemed to signal an epic reimagining that could captivate audiences worldwide. But behind the scenes, a different narrative took shape. Rumors hinted that Gadot and Zegler never fully clicked on set. Some claimed the dynamic between them was cordial but distant, with neither star thrilled about the direction the film was heading. When Zegler's public remarks sparked backlash, Gadot apparently grew even more uneasy, sensing that the controversy could tarnish her own reputation. Things reached a breaking point when word spread that Bob Iger planned a large-scale reset, multiple firings and reassignments to salvage Disney's image. Gadot, who had been considering other projects and partnerships, saw the writing on the wall. Rather than get sucked deeper into the chaos, she quietly signaled her intention to exit any future Disney collaborations. Here's where it gets murky. Some sources say Disney fired her outright in a broad sweep intended to cull everyone associated with the Snow White fiasco. Others insist Gadot was already stepping away, and Disney merely formalized the split in an attempt to look proactive. Either way, fans were shocked. An A-list star bowing out of a major Disney production fueled intense speculation that something disastrous was unfolding at the studio. And in the midst of all this, Bob Iger took drastic steps that would shake Disney to its core. Even for a studio as large as Disney, mass firings aren't taken lightly. Yet that's exactly what happened under Iger's orders as the Snow White situation spiraled. First, he let go of the entire marketing team responsible for promoting the film. Then, reports confirmed that animators, makeup artists, and even voice actors for key roles, like the Seven Dwarfs, were all axed. The official explanation was cost-cutting, but insiders had another take: pure scapegoating. There were murmurings that Iger, desperate to salvage the company's reputation, hoped these firings would signal accountability. If Disney publicly removed the people blamed for a failing film, maybe the outrage would die down and let the studio pivot to better projects. However, critics argued this approach was both short-sighted and cruel. Cutting veteran artists and voice actors, a move some described as brutal, didn't fix anything. Instead, it fueled more suspicion that Disney was flailing rather than problem-solving. Amid the chaos, Disney board members grew restless. Financial projections showed hundreds of millions in potential losses tied to Snow White 2025. This wasn't merely a box office dud, it was a high-profile nightmare on top of a string of other underperforming releases. Several board members began openly calling for Iger to step aside. Citing mismanagement and excessive risk-taking, they feared his strategy could cost the company far more than money. It could erode the goodwill Disney had built over decades. Iger, however, was not about to step down quietly. Publicly, he continued to insist that the firings were necessary moves in a larger cost containment plan. He avoided mentioning Rachel Zegler's name, rarely alluded to Gadot's exit, and flatly refused to acknowledge the boiling tensions in the boardroom. For anyone watching from the outside, it was obvious that the company was on shaky ground. But that wasn't the only casualty of the meltdown. Disillusioned employees started leaking details to the media, painting an unflattering portrait of an empire in crisis. The story was no longer confined to movie buff circles. Mainstream outlets picked it up, turning it into a corporate spectacle that overshadowed almost everything else on Disney's slate. People wanted to know, could Disney recover from an implosion this big? For decades, Disney thrived by turning nostalgia into box office gold. Live-action remakes of animated classics were seen as guaranteed hits, each one tapping into a built-in fan base that spanned generations. But the Snow White 2025 fiasco posed a pivotal question. Had the formula finally run its course? Critics argued that Disney was pushing too hard to modernize beloved stories, losing the sense of magic that made them classics in the first place. Fans, once loyal to the brand, felt disenchanted. Meanwhile, the fiasco exposed deeper cultural and corporate rifts within Disney. From the outside, it seemed there wasn't a unified creative vision steering these remakes. Instead, conflicting agendas forced hasty rewrites and expansions, leading to ballooning budgets and a chaotic production environment. Beyond Snow White, there were concerns about Disney's future approach to storytelling. Would the studio continue pumping out reboots that risk overshadowing the originals, or refocus on creating fresh, original narratives? Some industry analysts suggested that Disney, now reeling from colossal missteps, might scale back these risky endeavors. Others believed the company would simply double down, hoping for a breakaway hit to erase the memory of Snow White 2025. There's also the matter of Disney's brand identity. Part of its magic lies in the notion of family-friendly content that transcends generational boundaries. Yet controversies surrounding forced political messages, social media spats, and mass firings put that image in question. If Disney couldn't handle internal conflicts and evolving social standards gracefully, what did that say about its future as an industry leader? Still, not everyone is ready to declare Disney doomed. The company has weathered storms before, and each crisis has prompted some level of reform. Perhaps Snow White 2025 will serve as a wake-up call, prompting a hard look at how these blockbusters are planned, cast, and produced. Or perhaps this meltdown signals a permanent shift in how the public views Disney, a shift that may require more than a single blockbuster to repair. The story of Snow White 2025 is more than just another Hollywood flop. It's a collision of artistic ideals, corporate ambitions, and the power of social media to magnify mistakes. When a studio as mighty as Disney finds itself tangled in a web of controversies, from budget explosions to social media wars, people can't help but take notice. This mess has exposed the vulnerabilities lurking behind the polished exterior of a massive entertainment empire. Bob Iger's attempts to steer Disney away from disaster came across as frantic damage control. Gal Gadot's surprising departure and Rachel Zegler's polarizing persona only magnified the negative press. The forced layoffs and the harsh treatment of behind-the-scenes talent, all while clinging to the excuse of cost containment, left a sour taste for many. And for the board members, the final straw seems to be the crushing financial loss and disintegrating public image. Yet big questions remain. Will Disney pivot, learn, and adapt, just as it has done through past challenges? Or is the Snow White 2025 meltdown a harbinger of deeper issues? An over-reliance on nostalgia, a disconnect with the audience, and a leadership vacuum at the highest levels? Only time will reveal the lasting impact of this fiasco on the Mouse House. For now, one thing is certain. The aftermath of this live-action remake has forced everyone to rethink what Disney stands for and whether the company can still weave that classic spell it once did so effortlessly. Let this be a reminder that no project, no matter how revered or iconic, is guaranteed success in the modern age of entertainment. Plans go astray, Budgets run wild, and sometimes beloved fairy tales collide headfirst with the harsh realities of corporate decision-making. Where Disney goes next is anybody's guess, but one certainty looms. The path forward won't be as smooth as the magic carpets and glass slippers that defined its past glories. For anyone watching, the question hangs in the air. Has the kingdom lost its magic, or can it still muster a comeback worthy of its own storyline? Time will tell, and if this fiasco is any indication, the ride is far from over. What do you think about Disney's future? Will they rise above the chaos, or is this the beginning of an even bigger downfall? Share your thoughts below and be sure to stick around. We've got plenty more twists and turns to uncover in this ongoing saga.